You guys could be many places tonight, but you're here and you've chosen to show up for the uninsured, and I think that's worthy of a round of applause. So thank you. Thank you for all of that. And that says a lot about you. And you care about those that are caught in the cracks of our healthcare system. And I know you have a dream of solving this problem of giving access to care because, well, frankly, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And just like Jabril touched on, and some of our patients as well, tonight I want to talk to you about something even more special. Tonight I want to invite you to rescue 5,700 households from chronic fear of medical poverty. So who lives in these 5,700 households? Well, they're actually the Alice that's in our neighborhood, the people that are around us. And if you remember, Alice stood for assets limited, the income is constrained, but they're employed. So these people, they are the ones who have it the worst. They are above the poverty line, the federal poverty line, which for a family of four is $24,000 a year. And they're beneath the line that United Way has quoted for survival, which for a family of four in our area is $77,000 a year. And that's a lot of people. Now, what is medical poverty? Well, medical poverty is when a sniffle or a cough sends you into a panic because you're uninsured and you don't know if this is something that you should be worried about. You don't have a doctor that you can see just to get it checked out. This medical poverty is also when you have this rash that's just been growing and getting worse and worse, and it's getting bothersome, and you finally have had it, but the only thing that you can do is drive all the way to the emergency room, and you get there and you shut your car off, but then you freeze. You can't go in because you know that when you walk out, you might have a bill that you just can't bear. And so those are the people we want to show up for tonight. And my name is Mostafa. I'm the Chief Mission Officer of Cherry Hill Free Clinic. I'm also the son of immigrants. And growing up, my parents, they would take me and my three siblings to the local mosque, and we learned about the tenets of our faith. And one that stuck with me a lot was the best of you are those who give from the best of what you have. And now I didn't have much, so I didn't give much. And I think the only thing I gave my parents was a hard time growing up. But they still worked very hard to provide. But they couldn't have made it here in this country if this country didn't give them from the best of what it had. And that was an opportunity. And so I grew up and I was humbled by life and my stubbornness worn off. And I knew I had to give from the best of what I had. And so I enlisted in the Air Force. And I went on a lot of deployments. I traveled all over the world. But one deployment in particular stood out because it wasn't overseas. It was actually here at home during Hurricane Sandy. I was one of those troops that was stationed during that time. And I remember we were in a school in Monmouth County the night before the storm. And I'll never forget, I was kicking with my boot up against the building. This is a school. I'm kicking the school building, wondering, is this going to be here tomorrow because of the reports of this gigantic storm coming our way? Well, the next morning we got to look at the devastation, and as you remember, it was quite horrific. And so the shelter we set up was overcrowded. The people kept pouring in, and I just remember thinking, how are we going to do anything here? How are we going to do anything meaningful? I felt my contribution was just small. The goal was too big. But then over the next few days, what we were doing was working. We were helping. People were reconnected with their loved ones. Roads were being cleared. Communication getting restored. And when I saw the overall impact that we had, I started to have some faith. But then about a week after the storm, there was reports of an incoming nor'easter. And all our efforts were about to be reversed, I thought. And so then the same thing happened. We came together, we chipped away, and we accomplished the goal. People began to notice. People came through with donations to help us out. They came and gave us things like access to showers and laundry. We were there for much longer than we thought we'd need to be. And so they came with just ready to give from the best of what they had. And so 5 years later, I remembered this feeling when my best friend Jabril told me he wanted to put an end to another kind of suffering, the suffering of the uninsured. And so I shook his hand and said, let's get to work. And so after I left the military, I started a marketing agency, a photography business, an education company, and I never started or thought about a charity, so I did some research. And I discovered a few problems with charities, two big ones actually. One of them is that 42% of Americans just don't trust them. And 70% of Americans don't believe that they do right with their money. And Jabril and I felt that we want nothing to do with that statistic. So I told him we're going to do things differently. So we introduced a promise to the public that 100% of public donations goes directly to patient care. 100%. And our operations and expenses will be funded from a separate bank account, funded by a small group of visionary private donors. And so the other problem I found with charities is that they don't report back on what they do. And I don't know about you, but that's the most exciting part to me. And so if you look in front of you, you'll see what looks like a prescription, but I promise you it's not. It's a novelty. And I like to call these care scripts. We came out with these and we give them to our patients, and our patients, they write their impact, the clinic's impact on them, and we gather that information, we take that good news, and we give it to you, the donor. And because of this, even our patients began to give. And that showed me something very, very remarkable. And that's why small contributions matter. We once had a patient who was suffering heart failure, even a recent heartbreak, had a high-stress job, and needed just a $4 medication. And through our voucher program, funded by CVS, thank you, that changed their life. They got the medication they needed, and the donor that was able to come through made a tremendous impact for that. But when we checked later, what was more profound was that actually came from a $5 donation from one of our patients. That's what made it possible. And so just like down the shore at Hurricane Sandy, I thought this is how we come together for those in fear of medical poverty. And so now I want to tell you about the impact that we can have together. Over the last 2.5 years, the number of volunteers who served Cherry Hill Free Clinic is 120. Over 300 gracious donors has helped us raise funds for free access to the uninsured. And as a result, 1,000 patients have walked through our doors, or more now. I wrote this a little late, I guess, or early, that is. And over the course of 2,000 appointments that took place. But we're hearing from our patients now that their lives are being transformed. The biggest stressor in their lives is gone. They can see a doctor for that cough, for that sniffle, that headache, that rash, that infection, without fear of medical poverty. But even more, it allows them to do more with their families instead of walking on eggshells just to try to keep healthy. We had a patient write that we saved their life. I think you heard from a few patients today that we saved their lives. You saved their lives. And now, this is what I'd like to do for the 5,700 households in our area who are suffering and need help. We want to give them high quality, free primary care, provide them with the medication that they need, treat them with the dignity that they deserve, and we want them to live a normal life without the fear of medical poverty. And so tonight, we want to raise $20,000 to do just that for our neighbors, and that comes to about $160 each. Some of you are thinking this goal is a little too big. Some of you might be thinking we left off a few zeros. But this is not a competition. We just want to offer you the purest giving experience possible to help as many of your neighbors as you can. But I'm confident that if we come together and give from the best of what we have, there's no telling how much we can do. But I want to ask you something. If all you do by giving tonight is change one life, would that be worth it? See you show of hands. I thought that'd be worth it. Those care slips that are in front of you, they could be written by your child's teacher. They could be your neighbor. They could be your physician's assistant, your waiter. That's one whole life. And how many other lives are connected to that one whole life? We're stronger together now. I've probably said this enough when we come and give from the best of what we have. But now I want to show you just how strong. Because before this event, a gracious few have decided to chip away at that goal with $7,000. And so we're now down to $13,000. And I wouldn't ask you to do something I wouldn't do. So Jabril and I are going to each come in at $250. So now we're down to $12,500. And this goal, I think we can meet it by the end of tonight. And I think after we rescue these 5,700 households that are counting on us tonight, we'll work on helping 10,000 and then 30,000 until we can finally say that no one in our area is living in fear of medical poverty. Now, on the back of those care slips that are in front of you, I want you all to turn those around. And I want you to take your phone out and turn your cameras on. And if you point it at the code that's right there on the slip, it'll take you to the donation page where we can get this campaign started. And I know that these 5,700 households living in fear of medical poverty and they just need this free access to care. I don't know of a better group of people tonight that can come through for them than those sitting in front of me today. So thank you. Thank you for being here. It's been an absolute honor to be in front of you. And God bless and have a great night.